Hello everyone, Alex here, and today we're gonna talk about the 5 best teams in this Worlds Collide. So first we have Block. Block has an awesome team synergy at rank 10 with Ocean Master. It increases your attack for everyone on the team if your team starts blocking a lot, and also heals them for 1% of everyone of their HP for every block. So this really adds up and can help you sustain to a degree. There are a lot of interactions with block. I just made a video recently that the if you block, it's actually 40% for superpower damage and 52% physical damage reduction. So there's a very big reduction. It's almost like a defensive crit by way of looking at it. So you take a lot of less damage, and as you start blocking, he counterattacks a lot. His counterattack apply weaken, so the opponents are doing less damage and have less block break, so you are more guaranteed to block then. So they start almost doing like negative damage because of the 1% healing starts to shine more, and while they get less damage done with the weaken, and then his ultimate turns the weaken. Preferably have him like, I prefer to have him like 4th or 3rd in ultimate order. So when he actually does his ultimate, there are a lot of stacks of weaken on the opponents because it's for 3 turns every time. So they remain after a turn. He will add more, and there will be 2 remaining turns from the start when he did his first attack. So he can really, in some situations, like have like 3 people with 15 stacks of block, turn them all into bleeds. It says for 3 turns at the when you have him at rank 10, which each bleed reduces the shields. So when they try to shield after they have bleed on them, they do very smaller shields than usual. Based on how many bleeds you have, and also if you do the bleeds after they already had shields, the bleed damage will just pass through, and it's 20% of attack 4 stack of bleed, so 15 times that, 300% damage to many players on the many characters on the opposing team. If you have his ultimate going off later in the match, this can really add up also in the damage, besides like the support that they do less damage by the weekends, and they get some damage done to them because he counterattacks a lot. So even the few basics kind of add up, especially in something like an arena, elite arena, where it's plus 15% damage amplification every turn. So later on in the match, he can kill people just by counterattacking a lot. He also gives them block and block amount to the 2 allies with the lowest HP for 2 turns with his advanced attack that can activate every 3 turns. That's a small reason I have a speed on him, besides like having this piece with block, so it kinda everything kinda works a little bit together. So you have this going off a little bit sooner, a little bit more often. He counter attack, he does a basic a tiny bit more often because of the speed. Then you'd have one more bleed. And of course you have 2 amazing tanks here where they block a lot. I have a full video on block. They are very beefy. I have many videos recently about like block amount and stuff. And those 2 characters, like, he deals damage defensively when he gets hit and he blocks. So the opponents almost hit himself by hitting him. He gains 32.4% damage reduction, all of them at batch 25, with a not damage reduction, block amount. When they block, they take this amount of damage less. And Blue Beacon specifically has some anti-crit and back row protection mechanics in his kit that was the way that the meta moved from crit to block, because now you cannot have a Wonder Woman go. Also, it changed Wonder Woman's advanced attack. It was hitting the back row, and now it's hitting the front row. So the back row is more protected. Otherwise, you could just nuke someone because there's a lot of damage. So now the back row is will not get one shot usually if you have a Blue Beetle in the team. by a Wonder Woman's first ultimate, then you have a healer heal them up a tiny bit for the 1% from Ocean Master. Really awesome team. I use them as the first team in main stages. I use them in Elite Arena, but in the main arena. But in main arena, if I had the second team I'm gonna talk about that I almost thought of making first, they were close for me. At the same size, I would probably run them, and I'm planning to replace them. But in they gave me a lot of defensive victories or offensive in Elite Arena. They almost beat everything. They're also part of a third league challenge with Seven Wolf. They are part of the requirement that you need two of them. They are very strong in the Evil Falls here against her. So a lot of places to use the block team. There and they were more available earlier, so maybe people will also have them bigger. Ocean Master to rank 10 really makes a massive difference having this 1% healing, and he also does some other stuff like I think it's this one bleeds instead of 2 turns to 3, and also the advanced attack, I believe, like duration from 1 turn to 2. So he really becomes stronger with that. And you kind of need to have usually some DPS and one DPS and one healer with them, either like Constantine and Pandora, or you can go Wonder Woman, Kid Flash, or Zatanna with Wonder Woman. That's still something I'm using in main arena. But some people are also start using and don't have Cyborg, so I cannot really properly test that, but I'm also considering doing that. So no, let's see, because he's also at the similar level than me, and I cannot really beat this team. So like a Cyborg and a Aquaman, a very high sustain team. Some people try Peacemaker in there, and I kind of want to test that, like Peacemaker and Cyborg instead of not in Cyborg and Aquaman, sorry, because I don't have Cyborg. Peacemaker adds a lot of shelters to everyone. Aquaman can protect the back row because he will give them invulnerable the first time they fall low in HP. He also does some healing. A high sustain team will then benefit from Ocean Master's counterattacks that he can do a lot. So this also works specifically for the mirror match, but it's also many times more difficult to be a one shot from an opponent, because for example you have Ivy going with a ultimate and they're very low in HP, and then you kind of bet on your Superboy doing a couple counterattacks and finish people off. But if they are invulnerable for half a turn, if they heal a little bit up, if they have like some shelter on them, maybe then you cannot one-shot them. So maybe high sustain is the way to go, at least for Elite Arena. I don't know if you need them and if they work in main stages. I tried Mera and Aquaman in main stages, and they were horrible, very little damage. They barely make it with having Wonder Woman in the team as the main damage dealer, but they still make it as the first main stages team, and also in system recovery, especially when you don't need to use tactical characters. They can make a very strong team like a Wonder Woman, 3 block, and either Kid Flash or Pandora. Moving on to the second team is Mr. Terrific Justice Gang, a superpower damage dealer team with no tank. Don't necessarily need to have all 3 Justice Gang members. Usually I'm not using Guy with them in anything pretty much. I use Guy in the first league challenge where he's a boss and he does amazing damage. He's worth it to build only for that. But if you also bring Guy, and I'm doing that, to badge 30, then he has an interesting badge where his basic can hit many times, and he changes as a character, becomes more viable in PvP and in PvE besides League Challenge 1, but he is such a boss in League Challenge 1, which I would highly recommend for people that have even a slight interest in League Challenge to place well. And if you, there are very nice rewards there, you want to build him up for that and have his artifact at rank 3. It really does a lot of damage amplification. This adds up, it goes to 1000% of damage amplification. Every time he adds a shield, it has no limit. So he starts killing more and more parademons, and he's awesome. Then to really drive the point home, this is a screenshot, and you see how much more damage he does than everyone else, and how much more sustain he has, how much more tanking he does. So he's by far better than everyone, almost like a cartoon character, and he's awesome in there. But back to Justice Skunk. The reason I didn't have them on the first spot is I use them on the second main stages because they're a little bit squishy. They can be one shots, and a hard version with like a Aquaman and a Cyborg, they cannot get through someone that's at a similar level than me in Elite Arena. They don't win. They usually win against block teams, especially without like very heavy sustain. Even like a healer in there like Pandora or Kid Flash, they do amazingly. They win a lot more than half the time, especially this season, where I have Ivy with them that has extra buffs for this season of Elite Arena. They can also win in main arena, especially if you have them big, against, and them being your main arena team, either both on offense and on defense. He needs to be at rank 10 for them to be a very strong team. Otherwise, it's just okay. And the healing that he does is busted because it also works. It heals for 20% of the missing health every time a debuff is cleansed. Here, at about 20, at the start of the round, he cleanses the debuff from himself, and it also prioritizes control debuffs. So for example, if someone has like the new reinforcement that gives you silence for 4 turns, I think it is, he cleanses that from himself if it happens to play out that way. His ultimate also cleanses the team, so then you have healing, but you also have healing when he cleanses from himself at the start of Superman turns. 1 stack of a random debuff is removed from every time he took damage since his last turn. I think this counts as multiple instances of he cleansing debuffs for the sake of Mr. Terrific Sim Synergy healing. So you can heal for like 40-60% your whole team. That's how I see it playing. So he's very strong. The cleansing debuff and sending them back to the opponents are a way to counter a block team, because they basically, as I said, rely on having a lot of weakness on you, so you deal less damage to them, and they almost heal by the 1%, because you do very little damage because of the weaken, they reduce your attack, but then they turn them also into bleed and they start doing a lot of damage. But if you send them back either as weaken, they do less damage to you, or as bleeds, then they start taking damage, or as both. He also, every one of his attack puts out dampen, so it increases the superpower damage, and he does the same with his team synergy. So you can have a superpower damage dealer that does a lot of damage, really benefit from that. Ivy is a great example. You can even have the lash on her, and you can potentially, especially this season of Elite Arena, she's a beast, because she is both a poison character and a in-battle growth character. So if you see this season, they have a lot of buffs in them for that. So they have like 50% speed and increased healing, and 50% more attack, HP and defense, 50% more attack, she can nuke the opponent's back row. Very strong. It's interesting to see. I don't have them on the list yet, the new team, because they're not all released, but people that have at least the current poison characters like a Swamp Thing, a Ivy, and a Penguin have reported beating block in Elite Arena. So it's interesting to see with the new characters, and also them stopping cleansing from poison stacks for the team synergy. Then they may even counter like the Mr. Terrific, because if poison is the only debuff they put out and he cannot cleanse it, then they will still get damage and they won't get a heal, and that's interesting. Could be a strong team, but I don't have them on yet. I count her as a potential pair for Justice Gang. Another character that can work great like this, but it's not super available, is Hal. Hal is awesome, does a lot of damage with his ultimate, and if he hits the same person a few times, the back row can really ramp up his damage. He can kill a lot of people quickly. Could even try to pair with Atana then. And both of them are superpower damage dealers that can potentially nuke the opponent's back row, so that's interesting and a way to counter block. Poison Ivy is a lot more easy for everyone to obtain, and she's used in a league challenge for the back row. But the problem with her is if you have a lot of attack bonus on her, then she's gonna start getting the parallax and not Guy, so then you have to move like a crit gear on her, and even like instead of attack something else like speed, just so Guy still gets the parallax over her. It's super important to take that into account if you start building Ivy. But Ivy is an awesome character that does a lot of damage to the background, can potentially nuke them. You have other characters that aren't a tank but are very tanky, like Superman DCU with this turn of invulnerable, and he puts out a lot of damage by himself, helping other people do more damage, and he can potentially nuke an opponent's like a Nightwing, for example, with his ultimate, or a Blue Beetle, because he does a lot of single target damage with his ultimate, and his basic deals more damage against tanks. So that's a way you can kill the opponent's an opponent's block team. He works very well with them. He's a superpower damage dealer. He can counter attack, and he gets a little bit more counter attack chance from his badge as well. And at third, it's interesting. He can potentially help more with that. But what's very interesting with Superboy is he can counter attack. It stays on attacked. If an ally is attacked, he has a chance of counter attacking. That means even the counter attacks from Ocean Master, Superboy can counterattack them, so then you can kill a weak Ocean Master that may already have a very low HP because of Ivy or Hal ultimate. He can counterattack even twice, and if he counterattacks a few times or even does his basic against an opponent Blue Beetle or Nightwing, then it 4 stacks of burn detonate and do a lot of damage. And Superman DCU, if he's at rank 9, can extend the burns and add 1 more stack. So the burns are and the counterattacks he does on top of the counterattacks of Ocean Master are a way to counter the block team. And he could potentially, with his ultimate, it does less damage every time it hits the same target, but it can potentially hit someone in the back row that's already weak and nuke them off, or even someone in the front row that is low on HP by Superman DCU ultimate. And then besides that, you can have anyone that's a superpower damage dealer, like Constantine or even Sinestro. Some people even try that like in Elite Arena, or they hybridize like a Debuff and a Justice Gang team and use no tank, or sometimes Sinestro synergy, but we're gonna talk about that. Either in main stages or in Elite Arena. I like putting either Zatanna or Raven with them, preferably Raven in Elite Arena, because she can add more stacks of poison for Ivy to deal more damage. She can add more stacks of burn, so you can have more detonations. She adds a very nice revive. That's one interesting way to add more survivability to the team. But Zatanna can help in some situations too, and I use her more in main arena with them as I'm trying to have this team work. There, as I said, Guy at badge 30 can be a very nice candidate for the team. Some people use Merab because she's tanky. And besides like main stages, they're strong in something like Convergence Crisis. And in the third League Challenge against Steppenwolf, there is now a week where it's with dampen characters. Then you can get a very big score because many people are already using someone like Superman DCU in there because of the many dampets that he puts out. It's very strong and allows someone like Sinestro to deal more damage, and he's a tanky character that can work very well in there. You could try something like a support sometimes, like for example, I use Pandora with them in main stages. But let's talk now about team number 3. We cannot talk about the possible hybrid, but Sinestro can lead a team of his own that can have just gang members in there. Like I use for a long time Superman DCU with them because a very interesting tank that with his invulnerable and with the dampens that he puts out, and he adds enough debuffs so your team can keep going. But Sinestro, usually you would have a different artifact with him, but at the moment I don't have him used in Elite Arena, so I'm moving artifacts on him when I'm using him in other game modes, but maybe I'm considering putting this on him and potentially having a spot on him in Elite Arena. I'm considering a team about that, but they're extremely strong in main stages. They can carry one of your teams, especially if you have other characters like Deathstroke works very well with them in main stages. He's a beast, especially if you have him at rank 10, and I have a mercenary that I hire almost every week. Now I'm kind of done with main stages, but I hired him very often because of his one cost of ultimate. I have a video with a song I made, which I played 3 main stages. I have it showcases a Deathstroke like that, getting through some late game content if you need a stick to see that, how it plays out. But it's amazing because he starts with 1 cost ultimate, so then you can have Groot and him ulting turn 1, then you have Sinestro having a lot of ultimate energy cost reduction and stacks of power of fear, so you can deal more damage. And you can really do a lot of ultimates by having a character that has only 1 cost of ultimate. You can have other characters doing their ultimates quicker. He does a lot of damage, can nuke someone that does a lot of shields, can neuter them because if the opponent's tank in main stages relies on shields. I see some people using a team like that in Elite Arena, but at rank 9 he's not really great for me, and at rank 8 he's almost unusable. In Elite Arena he's kinda bad, but rank 10 make him a more interesting character because he puts out a lot of blitz, and blitz can reduce massively the shields the opponents are doing. He does a lot of damage by himself, he puts out a lot of debuffs, he doing a lot of basic and taking a lot of turns. He can help you get ultimate energy back faster. He almost feels like he has a 0 ultimate cost, because when he goes at a 1 ultimate cost and he does so many basics that count for energy generation, because like for example Bright ultimate, you do 1 basic for everyone of your team, but you don't get energy back to do 1 more ultimate. When he does an ultimate against action bar and does a basic, it counts as 1/5 of an energy generation. So that's very nice. Raven, of course, is an awesome character with them. They work like Raven and Sinestro are an awesome duo for against Steppenwolf, are the main characters that you need to have. You can kind of use them against the SAD, but as superpower damage dealers, they're not as effective in there. But against Steppenwolf, Sinestro really carries the team. Raven revives at a very nice pace and keeping her team alive, and knocks back the action bar and puts out many debuffs on Steppenwolf. Helps a tiny bit with the damage. I kinda want to have her emblem higher. If she's at 30, it does a massive heal, and she will contribute more but she's very strong. Amazing, putting out a lot of debuffs and reviving people. This is the way this team can sustain themselves. Groot is an awesome character. Then when he gets hit, the opponents will get debuffs, so then you have Sinestro start to working. He knocks back the action bar by a lot and has fear here. He starts the match very tanky, but even if he dies, if he becomes squeezier, then just Raven revives him and he keeps going. Only 2 energy cost that puts out a lot of debuffs, can be very nice, and they help activate Sinestro. So you have those 2 characters like Grodd and Deathstroke with very low ultimate costs, can really help Sinestro do a lot of ultimates for main sages. They're also decent in Elite and kinda try to build a team. Like, I'm thinking to bring Green Lantern John, because many people say very good thing, especially now that he got a buff, and I started slowly accumulating some of his fragments, so maybe I'm gonna try him, but at rank 10, not before, and try to build a team like that. Zatanna works very nice with them in some situations. I use her like in something like main sages or special system recovery, and it's very nice, or something like Evil Falls, they're amazing there, or even like something, I haven't done a good score this for this event, but I use some sort of team like this, and so he has a lot of uses in Sinestro. In Evil Falls, most of them, even here, I used Sinestro, and I used a team like this to come here. Here you need Sinestro to finish it. Even here, start using Sinestro. I'm not sure here, I don't remember, but probably not. Powering, you can use things with Sinestro. Here you can. No, I don't have here Sinestro. In some system recovery that you don't need to have mighty characters, for example, you can use a Sinestro team. Very strong, but he needs a lot of debuffs around him, so he gets after 6 he gets 1 reduced ultimate cost. You need to have him at least rank 8 to do that, and he can deal a lot of damage, but he's a little bit slow to keep going, so many times I do a different run for situations where you need to clear in 6 turns, for example, for system recovery. In Elite Arena, he kinda works. Maybe I try to do a team like that, but I also kinda want to have either Zatanna or Raven with the Justice Gang, so then there is less cards around Sinestro to really take advantage of him. But I used them for a long time as my worst team, but they were still getting some victories there, so they're not terrible in PvP. Some people even try to do like some Justice Gang Sinestro hybrid in main arena, but the reason I have them here is they're awesome in PvE content, and Sinestro gets a lot of play, and I don't even have him like at patch 30, maybe he becomes stronger after that. I don't have signatures on him in contrast with other characters like Wonder Woman, so I'm expecting to use, and he's awesome, like in main sages. Some situations you can, you need to use a team like this, he's very strong, or at least hybridize them very well with Justice Gang, and they can make an awesome team. And he's awesome as a villain character to push Convergence Crisis, both in the blue color like Intellect, but also like Kison City to get fragments for purple and blue characters. A lot of uses for Sinestro. I really like him as a character. They're not like game-changing PvP. They use a lot PvE. Really like him, and as I said, he's the boss. He's the strongest character against Steppenwolf, so he gets a lot of play there. Number 4, I'm still gonna put Crit, because I use them everywhere. At least I use still Wonder Woman and Zatanna in main arena, although I'm kinda planning to change that. They are kinda decent still in Elite Arena, even though this season you don't have the anti-hero buffs. I have a lot of like a block break on her, so you have like 27% block break. So many times I'm surprised how many defensive victories they get against opponents' block teams, because if she has 27% block break and the opponents have like a 50-60% block, there's a very decent chance that I'm gonna not get blocked on my attacks. I also have this help with the survivability a little bit, and to cleanse like possible stuns and silence that they try to put on you, or tons of stacks of weakens, so she does little damage. She cleanses all of that on turn 2 and stays uncontrollable for 2 turns, so this can help her against block to some degree. I don't use her offensively, but I'm surprised of how many defensive victories she has gotten me still. He's only for PvP, and now for a long time he's not really for arena, but he gives them great chance and great damage at the start of the match. And when he dies and he's at rank 8 at least, he revives and does one free ultimate. He revives, that's when you have his passive unlocked, but he also does one free ultimate with his revive at rank 8, which can really flip the match around even without having the anti-hero buff. I still use him as a single target in the league challenge, and he does the second best score after Batman. I believe he's very important for me there. I put different gear on him for that. I kind of have speed. I'm hoping like I get a little bit more ultimates off and he revives a little bit quicker and tries to kill someone. I'm not really super excited of how he's doing now without the anti-hero buffs, but they're still getting very decent defensive victories, or they work very well against like common debuff teams still in Elite Arena. They can win mirror matches that many people that aren't very at the top that have stopped using a crit team. You can beat their team many times. I have like Peacemaker with them that still helps enable them more by putting out Fragile and staying invulnerable for one turn, even with that at least, and possibly healing them if you kill one of the opponents, and putting out many Shelter can really help with the sustain. I put Lex again with them, and I'm hoping like he survives a tiny bit with that and uses his ultimate. At least in Elite Arena he has a 2-turn ultimate cost, so you can have him and Zatanna use an ultimate turn 2. That's not terrible. He's very squishy, but I replaced Bride this season using him. As I said, I'm kinda considering bringing Peacemaker with a block to test that out, so maybe I'm gonna put either have a Red Hood again as a second tank, or try Bride with them, or try to replace them at all and try to do a Sinestro debuff team if this ends up being stronger than Wonder Woman crit team now without the anti-hero buffs for the season and have this artifact on him. But I at least want some more characters with them to work better, at least like him potentially being a beefy tank in there and helping the team survive. They're still kinda usable as my third main sages team. They used to be my first, so I understand that they're kinda falling off, but they're still usable at the like main sages 60. But I kinda move towards bringing Wonder Woman with block, and either trying to do like a version of Justice Gang and a version of a Debuff that works very nicely, or you can try to do something like a sacrifice team. So then there's not necessarily a place for a crit team or a need for them, but I'm still using like Zatanna, Wonder Woman there, and could like fit a third team, even sometimes a second, because the opponents are designed in a way that the crit can work very well with them, and you can still use like a Constantine and Pandora with them. As I said, I'm still surprised they're getting very decent amount of defensive victories against block, because they have very high block break and the opponents maybe don't have maxed out like their block chance that they can put on the characters. I'm also using some sort of hybrid like that, especially with him giving a lot of crit chance, crit damage at the start of the match to clear system recovery, especially the ones that you need to have in fewer turns. So I'm definitely happy I have an investment into someone like Red Hood, but wouldn't necessarily recommend him too much to rush for a beginner now in the game. There's many other characters that have a lot of value, and especially if you aren't doing a single target where he may end up being valuable there. I Let's talk about some other teams that I haven't included. The sacrifice team is decent. I kind of used them for most of the 60th chapter as a third team, but they barely can work as my second team. Usually, like, I need to have a lot of resets. I'm kind of lazy to do that because I already have many teams that can beat the second better than them, like either a Justice Gang team or a Debuff and block. So I have three teams that are stronger for them, from them in main stages, and you also only need two. So they were more delegated at the third, that is weaker, but they can kind of do it in the second. I just wanted to try that where the limits are. I hired as a mercenary rank 10 Fate, and wasn't really impressed of him. He didn't really elevate the team, throwing like characters like Zatanna with them, or someone else that you have spare that kinda helps them, like Raven or Sinestro or Kid Flash or whatever. Fate wasn't really better than the other characters as options. I still can have the Mera smaller. Now I can bring her to rank 10 if I want, but rank 9 is not necessarily like a baby Mera and a batch 20. Kind of happy with them there. I understand as a newer player you may have investment to them and not into crits and you want to use them. Perfect, but they weren't really great in Elite Arenas. I tried them. They could beat some bad debuff teams, but my debuff team kinda did the same thing, and my crit team are beating them more consistently, and they were kinda inconsistent against crit teams. So I rather have my crit team that beats both crit and debuff as long as they are there. Some people say that if you have a very strong debuff team, like with Zatanna and stuff, they start beating or have a decent chance of beating crit teams. And I kinda want to test that a little bit more with if I build him. Also kinda want to build him for the Second League Challenge to possibly replace Nightwing as a single target because he has a tag. But I'm not really sure what to expect. I definitely have faced against a very beefy Green Lantern Jones in Elite Arena, and was kinda impressed with him, but I don't know if you need to really have a big batch or what not. Maybe this will end up being a thing. Not necessarily mad on the sacrifice team, but they weren't great in PvP. I have better options for at least like 3-4 teams better than them, both in PvP and in PvE. Okay, she's rank 9, not 10. Might change a little bit. Other teams, for example, just use the legendary at rank 8. Him at rank 8, he wasn't necessarily the biggest game changer, but again, maybe I'm gonna shove him into block for Elite Arena and we'll see how that goes. Not many people like this team, and in my opinion, or my understanding so far, is people that weld on them and have them very big and might have other characters smaller, so in contrast they look very well and very nice. And okay, if you have a strong team, don't let me hold you down that they are bad. I'm saying at rank 8 they're worse than Justice Gang were at rank 8, and when I brought Justice Gang at rank 8, the rest of my roster weren't that much higher than them, so they could be usable. If I have already 4 teams that I need to shove into content that requires 3, why having a fifth team smaller than them now that's not stronger at the smaller size? And I don't know to what degree that makes sense. I'm not saying they're horrible. I really like Peacemaker. See some value. Some people are trying to use those characters, or some of them, in the second league challenge. I'm very mad that they didn't give them some helpful tags so we can shove them into teams very easier. Maybe at rank 10 they start being stronger, but I have a video where I test them in Elite Arena, and my Wonder Woman still survived and killed them, even having the whole team counterattack her. Then they need to have like the new reinforcement with them to have many people counterattacking, but then you can just set that to a side, either having someone like him die, so you kind of want him to die and revive and do a free ultimate, or Zatanna that's beefier, and with that she will start and gain one ultimate back if you have this max out that I'm very close to doing. And I've seen people then can use one more ultimate immediately, so I want to see that how it goes. And I tested them, like can they take out, if you put decent gear onto them, can they go and take out the third team? Yes. If I didn't have like 5 other teams for main stages and I only had 2, I would be happy using them on the third main stages team, and I would say, okay, they're a nice team. Now that I have them, I don't rush to build them higher. I haven't seen like many teammates like really saying that they elevate their league challenge or something else. They are kinda okay, just decent. Like if you have well out on them and not on earlier characters, then they're strong, okay. Maybe everyone, if you have everyone big, they will be usable and kinda decent. And I also faced a lot against them, both in the season and Elite Arena, where it was kind of disappointing considering how well, how much stats they had and the advantage, and how much better Justice Gang performed in their respective Elite Arena season than them. There were some interesting hybrids with them and like some Aquaman Mera, which was kinda interesting to face against, but as long as they had the extra stats. As long as like Bride and Peacemaker stopped having like the extra stats, they stopped really being a thing, and I'm not really facing up against either like 11th Street Kids team or a sacrifice team or a hybrid that is really difficult to beat in Elite Arena. So, and most people aren't using any of the two. Maybe one Peacemaker from time to time or one Aquaman, not whole teams together. As I said, I kind of want to try both of them, but this means you scrap the teams and you just use the legendaries with a block. So if you have an investment into them, cool, they can be a strong team. I'm not saying like if there was top 10 teams, they couldn't be on the list, but at the same time, most content requires like 3 teams in main stages and 3 teams in a Elite Arena, and they don't necessarily have either like a. I even tried like a, because they advertised them for Deathstorm, a new sacrifice team. They didn't help me do a better score at all. So not even useful there. So they don't have neither Evil Falls design for them that some other characters do. Like for example here Block, even Crit to a smaller degree. Debuff has that. Area of Effect and or Robin has that. Bleed has that. Single target. Healing here is enough. You don't need to have like a sacrifice team. So there's no, and they aren't like very valuable. Maybe to some degree for the sacrifice league challenge, I see some people throwing like big Aquamans and doing bigger scores. So that can be interesting. But besides that, I don't really see a lot of places to use those characters if you already have a developed roster. but the fifth team that may be stronger than other teams, but I think it's less free to play friendly, and I prefer the Justice Gang over them to counter block. Is a straight like burn team. Many people are using them as straight burn team in Elite Arena, and they can beat block. They can beat crit to some degree because many of the characters have some physical damage reduction, so they will take like both Superboy and the other two Superman DCU and original Superman have some physical damage reduction, so then they here he starts with 30%, he even gets some extra from his bats, another 15%, so 45% physical damage reduction is nice, so they can kinda hold their ground against a crit, and they're decent in that. They can beat block because his team synergy when burn detonates it will lower the target's block rate by 12%, so super power damage that the detonations kind of feel like they ignore a block amount by something I was saying for the previous video, but that doesn't really make a massive difference either way. Super power damage dealers get a little bit more through block than physical. So I kind of see the allure, but if you have like just want to have one team countering block, I prefer the Justice Gang solution. They feel to be more valuable everywhere else. They have a massive healing. You kind of need the cleanse for the all the weekends Ocean Masters puts on you. I really like the sustain here. I like the more superpower damage, so you can nuke them. And Superboy can be used in there, and you don't need to build a whole different like a burn team. They got a small buff recently, so maybe they will be a little bit stronger. And I know people can put up a big score with them in the first league challenge, where you need to be against like a burn here. I don't have original Superman unlocked, and I'm not super close by spending money to do that. He's interesting. By bat 30, the original Superman can spend 2 turns with invulnerable, and he spends 1 turn with invulnerable, so you have 2 tanks spending a lot of time with invulnerable. Have Superboy in the back, counter-attacking a lot, dealing more damage, you have detonations, you have a possibly Bizarro. I don't know to what degree people are using him in the team, because usually people are using like Superboy, Phosphorus. At least they use him because of the extra stats he had as an anti-hero with in Elite Arena seasons. And Starfire, I don't know to what degree they use Starfire and to what degree like Bizarro, but Bizarro can healing them and be putting out some more burns. So you have a lot of detonations damage and reducing the block rate from the opponents. I can see them. I have like seen opponents attacking me with straight burn teams in main arena and beating my block team. I have watched the replays or in Elite Arena where I lose, and I can see like how it can work. I have played like with crit against them in Elite Arena and lost by a small margin in a punch up, so I could see that going either way if it was like a punch across. So I see the potential for them. Maybe if people have like a big original Superman, that can make a lot of sense, or if you want to well out and they have him unlocked and want to have his buds at 30 and have him spending 2 turns with invulnerable, have him 1 turn with invulnerable, they can make an interesting team. You can use them in the first league challenge. I don't know how strong they would be in main stages, or if you need them. You can just build Superboy and Superman DCU and hybridize them either with Justice Gang or with Debuff, and you're happy with that. They feel more and Crypto also elevated the burn team and can add more dampen and more burn, so you can have more detonations and more superpower damage. This is an interesting team that you don't have to build. Justice Gang can work as well, I feel like, counter a block. They're amazing in main stages, they're amazing in league challenges. Maybe block a little bit stronger than them, but also have my block a little bit bigger still. So maybe they, or if I unlock Hal, I will realize that I hire Hal very often as a mercenary. He's awesome, but I cannot test him like in Elite Arena or in Main Arena as a mercenary. Maybe as a very with a very big Hal, they will make an interesting team. But if I had to mention like a fifth team, you can try to make different teams. Like have a Justice Gang without Superman and without Superboy, and have like Hal in there, and some people are using like, for example, Jessica, and there was a version like that could be my block team in Elite Arena. And Big Guy, for example, so you have a lot of shields. You could possibly maybe try something with Ivy and Hal. I don't know to what degree that makes sense, but you can nuke the opponent's back row a lot by having those two characters using their ultimate back-to-back. And you could have like a different than Burn team, especially if you have like original Superman unlocked, you have the ability to invest into many characters and have many fragments already for characters like Bizarro or Starfire or Phosphorus. You also got a small buff recently. You have many detonations. You have a Crypto synergizing with them. I have seen that playing against that. There are interesting teams that can beat block. I also won with block against them, so I don't think it's 100%. I can see them beating crit. So you can make a new team with them. You don't have to by having like 3 teams. You can already hybridize them, as I said, like the 2 characters here, and have a lot of value either with the Debuff or with Justice Gang or with both. You can try to have all 3 teams, but then you really need all of them and block. I'm just throwing out different ideas for different people. Some people might benefit from Burn, but if I had to pick like 5 teams, I would try to make different teams like the Debuff and the Justice Gang, and make a Burn team including Crypto and Superman original that spends 2 turns with Invulnerable. That looks more appealing and interesting to me, being also like part of the team on the first league challenge. I can do a big score than building a new team with either with 11 Street Kids or with like Sacrifice. I'm not saying those teams are bad necessarily. Maybe if you have everyone at rank 8, it makes sense to use them as your third team. Probably not. By the 5 teams I've said, I don't find the room by having to use 3 teams to also use the other 2 teams. But maybe I'm biased. I don't have them at rank 10, and something at rank 10 really unlocks them. I played against them with rank 10. I have discussion with people that have everyone at rank 10. I try to take the things like that into account and not just saying, as I said, like some people that have them big are happy with them. Some people that have a big Aquaman are happy with him as the third league challenge. Some people, someone messaged me and said, I have a investment into a sacrifice team, and instead of like Fate, he was using Bizarro with them. I guess the healing helped them sustain, and they were winning a lot in Elite Arena and were number 1 in their Elite Arena. It makes sense when you started the game, who you wanted to well out on. There are different phases in the game where you might have a bigger investment into a team, and it might make sense for you at this point. I'm not trying to negate like everyone's experience, or I don't necessarily want to say that those teams are bad. I'm saying for me they're not top 5. So to conclude, Block are an awesome team, especially rank 10 with his team synergy. Justice Gang, Superpower without tank are an awesome team. Don't need to have everyone on the team always. There are other ways to go about it. But at rank 10, his team synergy makes them very strong and a possible counter for most block teams. I cannot counter as I said, a block team with Aquaman and a Cyborg with my Justice Gang version currently against someone that's a very similar level than me. So I kinda prefer a block since I have a bigger investment to them to some degree. That's a factor. For my first main stages, so I have still at number 1. There are number 2. Then you can have a debuff team that's amazing, but maybe not the best in PvP. Creature Stealer can get play if you have investment into them. I still use them in Elite Arena and they're very decent. They weren't replaced by a sacrifice that I tried to do, or some sort of a debuff Sinestro hybrid that with what I have left, at least, maybe if I have more options and I bring him to rank to bat 30, it will become a little bit more of a contender to take their place. But in main stages, they're not really like the best synergy. You can have like Bride and Peacemaker with them, or Lex, and make a team, and even Kid Flash, make a team that can work, and but it's primarily based on Wonder Woman's great damage that he puts out. Burn is another option for some people that might have many burn characters unlocked and crypto, and they can try going that way. It's definitely a team that can beat block, and as block is higher on the list, I want to have them here since I don't feel like Sacrifice and 11 Street Kids can go well against block. And as I said, people testing like Man-Thing with a Big Ivy and a Penguin are reporting winning against block in Elite Arena. We'll have to wait to see about them, if they will be able to beat block. I want to test them myself, and how they perform against like Justice Gang, or even like the third team, like some sort of Sinestro comp or a crit team. Can they beat that? Also, Deathstroke, as I said, is a great character at rank 10 that you can throw even with a block. I've seen many people do, or with a debuff, at least for like main stages, can help you, but also like second league challenge, or even like the event here. So there's some degree like other options, or characters possibly opening more, like Hal, for example. I would really like to test a lot more rather than a mercenary. Like someone had a Hal team that you would call more like a Silk, that could beat my team in my block team in Elite Arena. There's different things that you can try. It's not prescriptive necessarily, depends on your roster and whatever, and they maybe lack to some degree which legendaries you were able to unlock. I pulled him luckily, so I actually pulled him twice, so I can test those two characters and give them as a recommendation. Maybe someone with Hal can say that actually Justice Gang is better for me, or I have tested Hal with him as a mercenary. He's awesome, can help you like something with like system recovery. But then you have Constantine, where you throw him out completely, or do you make a new sacrifice team just for main stages? There are many different moving parts depending on your roster. It's not like extremely prescriptive, but having to give like 5 strongest teams, which is a round number, I think those are the best currently in the game, and I'm waiting to see the full poison team to make an assessment and to properly test them. So again, block, Justice Skunk, Mr. Terrific Team, Debuff, Crit, and Burn. That's it, guys. Bye for now.